Good morning, everyone. This is the second lecture of ECO102, section 7. We are going to continue with the chapter Money and Banking and hopefully finish this chapter and start the next uh, chapter. Okay, so you can see that on the screen we have our slides, and I think we have finished up to. So, can someone remind me how much we have finished? So, have we finished slide 9? Hello? Yes, I think we have finished this also. Creation of money, the banking. So, can someone remind me exactly on which slide we were the last time? Hello? Can you hear me?
ম্যাম সেকেন্ড ব্যাংক থেকে শুরু হবে, মানে সেকেন্ড ব্যাংকে যখন টাকাটা নিয়ে যাবে ওখান থেকে শুরু হবে।
Okay, so we have bank B. Oh, we went all the way to bank B then. Okay, yes, I remember now.
ইয়েস
All
ম্যাম।
right. Okay, thank you so much. So let me just remind you a little bit because I know many days have passed since we had the last class. This was actually, we started from slide 10, and as you can see on the screen, the topic says the banking system and the money expansion process. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to understand how is it that the banks, they contribute in increasing the money supply of the economy. Remember, they're not printing money, rather they are keeping deposits and loaning out money to other third party, and that way money keeps expanding. Okay, that means the original amount that was deposited in an account, that keeps getting out as loan, and every time it's coming back to another bank, and that way it keeps expanding. So if you remember these, we were looking at the bank's T account. We were looking at the assets and liabilities, and we were trying to understand how is it that money is created. So if you remember, there was an individual called Bill who was given $1,000 by the central bank, and Bill created a new account in bank A. So bank A's liabilities and assets both grow by $1,000 because checkable deposits increase by 1,000, reserves also increase by 1,000. In the next one, we try to see that next, given that the CRR is 10%, that means cash reserve ratio is 10%. So the bank can keep 10% of the $1,000, that means $100 as required reserves, and the remaining the firm can give out as loans. Okay, so 900 is then first the excess reserves because the remaining was required reserves. So the total reserves is now 1000. However, checkable deposit is still the same at $1,000. However, now the bank can decide to loan out. So there's another individual called Jenny. So bank A decides to give Jenny a $900 loan, and however, it does not give her the money directly. It creates an account for her in that bank in which the balance is $900. As a result, as you can see, it has given out loans of 900, and here there is a checkable deposit for Jenny plus 900. Notice that both sides should always be same, and Finally, let's now try to understand, if Jenny wants to withdraw this money from her bank account, then it will change. Then the T account will change. So suppose she decides to buy a new computer. So she is writing a check to bank B where the supplier's bank account is. So if she gives a check, so from her bank account, the money will directly go to the seller's bank account in bank B. So as a result, the excess reserves of the bank will become zero from 900 to zero, and her checkable deposits will become zero from 900. Okay. However, if we now go to bank B's T account, we will see that bank T account's reserves increase by $900, and the checkable deposits of the computer retailer or the seller also increases by $900, because remember, bank A has sent the money to bank B. Okay. Now this process continues. Now we are looking at slide number. Okay, let me just insert some slide numbers so it's easy for me to mention which slide we are looking at. Okay, so we are looking now currently at slide number 13. The process continues in much the same way for bank B as it did earlier for bank A. So now imagine this is bank B, right? So what this bank also has to keep 10% of the total checkable deposits as required reserves. So you see, it will keep some money here for as excess reserves and required reserves. And then it will give out some of its required reserves too as loan. And then this process will go on exactly what happened in this bank, bank A. Same thing will happen to bank B. Okay. So $90. So see, 10% of $900 will is $90. So in this assets, you can now divide assets into two parts. Required reserves will be $90 and excess reserves will be 8 10 8 $10. So then this bank can actually give out this 8 $10 as a loan. And so this process will continue. The remainder $8 constitutes the excess reserves that can be lent to a still another borrower. That loan will create 810 in new checkable deposits and thus expand the money supply by that amount. The process continues with banks C, D, E, and so on until the dollar figures become so small that the process comes to a halt. So if we go to the next slide, you will see. So looking back over the entire process, this is what has happened. So now we are trying to summarize whatever we have seen in the past 3 or 4 slides. Okay, that's the money creation or the money expansion process. The central bank created $1,000 worth of new money and gave it to Bill, who then deposited it in Bank A. Thus, the reserves of Bank A increased by the same amount, but the reserves of no other bank increased. The banking system, with the newly created $1,000 in hand, made loans and in the process created checkable deposits for the people who received the loans. Okay, and then because checkable deposits are part of the money supply, by extending loans and in the process creating checkable deposits, the banking system increases the money supply. Now remember, checkable deposits are current accounts. Okay, they are current accounts. So basically, that current account is part of M1, right? And hence it is also part of M2. So every time the banks are increasing checkable deposits, they are also increasing the money supply. But although they are not increasing the notes, they are not printing any money. Okay, but still they are able to. The banking system is able to increase the money supply. Now, if you look at the table here at slide number 14, this table is basically showing us that this bank A, B, C, and D and E, if they existed, look at the reserves. If $1,000 is kept in the first bank, okay, this is the required reserve from that $1,000, 10% of that, and the remaining is the excess reserves, which is the total amount of money that the bank is giving out as a loan. This amount becomes the new deposits in another bank. From $900, 10% is again, remember, kept as required reserves, and the remaining 810 taka is kept as excess reserves and also as loan. So this 810 taka is now new amount of loan given to say another bank, bank C. And this process, see, this process is going on and on and on. And remember, this number is getting smaller and smaller and smaller, right? So first it was 900 loan, then it was 810 as loan, then it was 729 as loan. Any questions? So you see, this keeps on and on and on, and you can imagine at some point this loan amount becomes zero, right? That's when the creation of money will stop. So you see 900, 810, 729. So it will go on and on and on until it will be zero. Okay?
ম্যাম,
Yes.
সব ক্ষেত্রে কি রিকোয়ার্ড রিজার্ভ 10%?
Yes. Because central bank imposes a lump sum figure for everyone, for all the commercial banks. Okay? So this 10% is obeyed by all the banks. Okay? Now the
Yes, ma'am.
yes, okay. So now the thing is, oh, the formula is not given here. Okay, I'll give you the formula. I will change the slide and I'll give you the formula. So now you must be thinking that since the first initial amount of money that was deposited in the bank was $1,000, right? And from this $1,000, we are seeing that so much money can be created. Now you must be having a question, what is the total amount of money that was created then? Because this process can go on and on and on, and eventually at some point, this this new excess reserves, the loan amount will become zero. There is a very easy formula by which we can calculate. You don't need to sit and make this table until the new excess reserves becomes to zero. No, you don't need to do the entire process, this very tiresome and lengthy process. You don't need to do. There's a very simple formula that will help you to do it. Okay, so the formula is, let me write it down now, but I will be giving you the formula. I'll include the formula later in the slides. Okay, the formula is money. So total money creation, total. Can you see my screen? Total money created. Hello, please respond. Can you see my board? That is the Google Jam that I'm using.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Total money created is equal to initial initial deposit initial deposit divided by CRR. This is the formula. Okay. So initial deposit divided by CRR. So 1000 divided by 10%. If you do that, you will get the total amount of money that is being created. Okay, so you can see here 1000 divided by 0.1 will is equal to 10,000. So you see 10,000. So that answer will be 10,000. Even if you sit and figure out at every stage the new deposit, if you keep on doing so and so, you will still get the money is 10,000. But if you just use the formula directly, 1,000 divided by 0.1, which is 10%, you will get 10,000. Okay. Okay, let's move on to the next slide. Please do ask me if you have any questions so far. Okay, now let's look at slide number 15. If you look at slide 15, you'll see there are some very short question and answers. So let's read the first question. What will happen if the central bank, remember CB is central bank here, okay? What will happen if central bank increases the CRR? So remember in the previous example, our CRR was taken to be 10%, right? Fixed at 10% at all times. But what if the central bank decides to increase the CRR? And yes, they can do it. They usually do it in the fiscal year. Okay, when at the beginning of the fiscal year, the central bank may decide to increase CRR. Okay, but in fact, let me tell you honestly, the CRR has been decreasing day by day. Okay, year by year. But suppose, so my question is, suppose it increases. Okay, and you can definitely imagine the same answer by of the question, what will happen if the CB decreases? Okay, but let's first look what will happen if the CRR is increased. When the central bank raises the required reserve ratio, the impact on the money supply creation is lessened due to lower value of the multiplier. The intuition is that less money is left for loan when R is increased. As the deposit creation depends on the bank's lending, an increase in R slows down the money creation process by the banks. So you see, if the CRR increases, then money creation decreases through the banking system. Because CRR, remember, is the amount of money that the commercial banks have to keep, not keep, has to actually give to the central bank from the total deposit it has. So if it gives away more money to the central bank, then it has less money as excess reserves. And if it has less money as excess reserves, it has less money to give out as loan, right? And so less money will be created eventually. Okay. Now, can someone answer the question, what will happen if the central bank decreases the CRR? Can you answer? Anyone? What will happen if the central bank decreases the CRR as the Central Bank of Bangladesh is doing since many years?
ম্যাম টোটাল মানি বাড়বে তাহলে যদি হচ্ছে ডিক্রিজ করা হয় সিআরআর।
Very, very good. Absolutely right. Okay. So do you know what the real CRR is of Bangladesh right now? It's 4%. It's so low, right? It used to be 6% before, then it was 7% before. So you see, they keep on decreasing. They are decreasing the CRR. Right now it's 4% from, if my source is correct. Okay. So so let's look at the second question. What will happen if people prefer to hold cash rather than bank accounts? Now, one thing notice in the previous example that I gave you of money creation, every time I spoke about, or rather think about Jenny, think about Bill, think about Jenny, the first two people. Every time they had the money, they went and deposited the money in a bank account, right? And think of Jenny. When she bought a computer, instead of taking out cash directly, she had the money in the bank account, and then the money was directly transferred from bank to bank. So you look for Jenny and for Bill, both of them, they don't keep money as cash, right? So we assumed that the money that people have is always kept in the bank. Okay, so actually, in our example, we found out that if everyone decides to keep money in bank, then what is the total amount of money that will be created, right? But in reality, people do prefer to hold some cash, at least, if not all the money in bank, not all the money in cash. So most people keep some money in banks and some money as cash. In that case, you see, you won't be able to find out how much money can be created in total, because there are some leakages here, because not all money is transferred into the bank accounts. They are not kept in bank accounts, right? So that's why this question is asking, what will happen if people prefer to hold cash rather than bank account? So you can see, when the depositors prefer to hold more cash than make deposits, the currency ratio, that means the CRR increases, and thus the multiplier is reduced. This leads to lower increase in money supply. So what they're saying is that if you deposit less money, oh sorry, this is not CRR, not currency ratio is not CRR, sorry. It means that the less money is kept in the bank, the less money will be available for the bank to give out as loans, and hence there will be less increase in the supply of money. Is this part clear? So the first one talks about CRR, the ratio itself, the required reserve ratio that the central bank decides. But the second one is asking about the behavior. What will happen if the people start to behave differently? That means if people start to hold more cash and less money in the bank account. Then you can see, since the money in bank account is less money will be taken from there as loan, and less money will be created in the banks overall. Are these questions clear? Is this situation clear for everyone? Okay, I hope it is. Okay, so let me just check back to you. Okay. All right, so 27 people, actually 26 people, because here I'm included, are here right now. I would like to take your roll call now. All right. So I would like to call out your name. Okay, so I'm just stop sharing right now. And actually I'll stop recording as well.